Hello guys, welcome here to Sunday Morning Tinkle. Um, it is Sunday, of course, and we're only a few days away from going to the Bills game on Thursday Night Football. So we are both pretty excited about that, I think. Should be a good matchup.
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, hopefully it's a good game and I don't get disappointed. I haven't been to a game where they've lost in a few years. So
We will, of course, make our picks a little bit later for that, but maybe we'll try to get some content out on Instagram and Facebook. Is of course we'll have a big show ahead there, so might want to stay tuned to that. As a reminder, before I get into my takeaways, because I think I'm leading it off this time. So
yeah, you are. This week you are.
we meant to talk about that before the show. But before we get going on that, of course, just a quick reminder that you can not only listen to our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, as well as watch on YouTube, but you can now watch the video on Spotify. So if you have the ability to watch on Spotify and you just don't want to sit here and listen to our voices, you want to see our kind of ugly, hideous faces, be sure to go give it a watch on Spotify. So,
Of course.
is of course available. But with that coming up on the show, we will have Media's Worst Take of the Week. We will talk one coach on the hot seat already as we enter week number 7. And then, of course, we will give our table on this.
Mind you, it might be somebody that we didn't ever think that would ever be on the hot seat in
I think
his
we
whole
called
entire
it.
career.
I think we.
I mean,
called
we
it.
called it, but
without
I mean,
teasing it, obviously, or without giving it away. But
right.
with that, I will get things started here. You notice I'm kind of not wearing my Chargers stuff here.
I know it's been rough.
I didn't watch much of that game. I heard Herbert looked pretty bad. I had to get to bed early that night. I just couldn't stay up to watch my team, and it's unfortunate. But
Right.
Cowboys bounced back after kind of a hot start from the Chargers. Chargers got out to a 7-0 lead right away in that game, and it looked like a game that, at least based on the first possession, you're thinking maybe Dallas fans were thinking, oh, God, here we go again. It's going to be another blowout. Yeah, Chargers don't do that for some reason. Even more reason to fire Brandon Staley, but I digress from that. They fall to 2-3 on the year after playing the Cowboys. We got to talk about the fan, though, before I get into my questions.
I was going to say.
Oh, man.
The funny thing about that, too, is that fan actually was on, I think, ESPN.
On
got
Pat
asked,
McAfee.
Yeah, Pat McAfee show, and got asked, there's a lot of speculation going around that you're getting paid to basically act like you do, and then she's like, no, I'm always like this, I'm a mom of 4, I'm always like this, crazy. Apparently her and her husband are season ticket holders. I don't know why you would want to be for Chargers, but I'll digress. But yeah, but there was a picture actually going around that showed her in the past wearing a Vikings uni, so that's what added a lot of speculation of maybe she's paid by the NFL, maybe she's just out there trying to pretend to be a Chargers fan, because there was a past picture of the same exact lady wearing a Vikings jersey, and it was a Adam Thielen jersey, by the way, too, back when he was still playing for the Vikings. So that added a lot of speculation, but no, it Data's season ticket holders.
So the whole story behind that now is that her son plays for the youth Vikings team, so that's why she bought the Adam Thielen jersey.
That makes
to
sense.
show support for the youth Vikings that her son plays for. So this was a big debate. For those who don't know, I went to the Sabres game this week against the Lightning. We won't talk about that on this show. It was a good game. But me and my friend were sitting there, we're talking, we're like, oh, he insisted the whole time. He's like, she was planted there. She was paid, there's no disputing that because no one gets that excited about the Chargers. First off, here's a guy right here who gets super excited about the Chargers, okay? So drop that from your thoughts.
I was gonna say,
Trust me, you wait
there was
till 420.
Oh, no, I get it. There was one moment in the game that, if Herbert is really gonna be, I don't want to talk bad about Herbert because a lot of it could be Staley's play calling and stuff like that. But as a quarterback, if you're going to really have a very lengthy career in the NFL, you cannot, and I stress this big time, you cannot miss a receiver of Keenan Allen's excellence to miss a wide open receiver like he did, overthrow him, because that could have been catch all the way touchdown. That could have won the Chargers the game, by the way. And you miss Keenan Allen by like a few inches. You can't do that as a starting quarterback in the NFL. I don't care who you are. You could be the worst quarterback. You could be the greatest quarterback. You cannot miss a wide open receiver like that. He had nobody in front of him. There was nobody there. I don't think Herbert really had any pressure. He just overshot it. You can't do that. That's especially when you got the game on the line. You have a perfect opportunity to catch that and score and go like, I don't know, 50 yards down the field all the way to the end zone to score. You can't do that as a receiver. So that's the big thing is it could be Staley, it could be a little bit of Herbert, it could be a little bit of both. I get it that Mike Williams isn't out there, he's hurt for the rest of the year, but as a starting quarterback, you can't do that because as a GM, you're looking at it as like, is Herbert really the guy going for the future? If he's missing throws like that, I just like, again, I mean, there's a lot to blame on this team, as what I saw in that game. There's a lot of blame. So
coaching takes the top blame, and I'm sorry, but I'm
gonna
say that Herbert. Look, everybody misses those throws once in a while. It's not just him.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just not point the finger at just him because Josh Allen's missed those throws in the past.
That's why I said there's a lot of people to blame. It's not just him. It's I mean, Staley. It's
Staley 100%. Staley deserves 95% of the blame for every single loss that we had.
They tried to force Eckler in the game, especially coming back from injury. I don't know if he was a super 100% in that game, but they were trying to really force him and getting the run game going. It just didn't look like a very good game for the Chargers at all.
It's not. But here's the thing. We have started 2-3 many years in the past, and we've always rebounded to make the playoffs. So as far as my concerns, there's a little bit because I feel this is a little different. Obviously, that loss to the Dolphins. We don't know for sure that they're going to win their division, but I think at this point, there's a little bit of pressure to be good in the AFC East the rest of the way because we do still have to play New England. We still got to play Buffalo, and I'm pretty sure we still got to play the Jets. So I think we've got to come out of that 2-2. That's just my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, most likely.
Either that or 3-1. I think 3-1 is the safest bet. To me, they're going to have to beat Buffalo. Not an easy task to do. But I think I think that's their easiest path to the playoffs because if it comes down to it, again, the Colts look pretty good still, even without Anthony Richardson, who is done for the year. They're a team that's going to be in the wild card discussion. You're going to have Baltimore and Cincy, one of those two will be in the wild card discussion. The Browns could play spoiler. You know, and you just look around, and there's so many people that can play spoiler. We're going to have at least 2 teams from the AFC East in there, and I'd imagine even the Jets could play spoiler because there's rumors of Aaron Rodgers coming back sooner. Zach Wilson. Did you know that Zach Wilson put up his 2 best career games against one of the against the Kelsey brothers? Maybe having Donna Kelsey in the stands is what helps Zach Wilson, but I'll digress from that. And
they still got to play the Eagles too, to my knowledge.
But yeah, but in terms of, am I concerned about going 2-3? Yes, I think this week has to be a win. The possibility
to go 2-4 with Kansas City, I would definitely say with that game is that the Chargers really do got to win that game if they're going to have a chance to really possibly go forward into heading into the rest of the season, especially with having a chance to win the division too.
They got to win the key matchups, okay? They've just got to win these key matchups. Like Kansas City, they got to win one. I'm sorry. They cannot get swept by Kansas City this year. No.
I will say that the Chargers defense also has to be ready for these matchups too, because I don't know if I've really even seen their defense looking all that swell either. But hey,
since Staley took it over, it's been just as bad. Just gonna point that out. But again, they play the Chiefs. They've got to come out of that with a win. I really believe they can come out of the Bears game with a win. If you don't beat the Bears, then I have no hope. Plain and simple.
Right.
Then you get the Jets, the new look Lions. To me, you've got to come out of KC with a win. You've got to come out of the Bears with a win. So then you're 4-3. You got to come out Monday night against the Jets with a win. So 5-3. I don't have hopes against the Lions, so that one I think is going to be an L.
Yeah, it definitely does seem like they have a very hard schedule coming up.
But they have some easy opponents sprinkled in there because the Packers are a team they can beat, I think.
Yeah, probably.
The Ravens, they really got burned by Pollard, so I don't think that's a game they can win. Broncos is a game I think they can win easily. Raiders is another game I think they can win easy. The Saturday night game against the Bills, that's a toss-up. I really think they can take it to the Bills because, and you'll talk about the Bills a little bit later, but I think that game against the Giants, they could take the Bills. I'm serious.
Yeah,
Broncos and Chiefs. So, again, they've got to come out of this with some wins because they wrap up the season against Kansas City. And if they don't come out with something, I think they're going to be in deep trouble as far as making the playoffs. So, again, just on the strength of schedule has me a little bit concerned. And we'll see what happens. But I want to keep things going because we've been running close on time the last few weeks. So, I'm going to talk about the Astros. They could be on their way to their 3rd straight World Series later tonight. They are up 3-2 on the Texas Rangers. Texas Rangers, I believe, held a 2-0 lead in this series not even a few days ago. So we could be talking about the Rangers blowing a 2-0 series lead after tomorrow night. Or after tonight, rather. Man, and there was a brawl, apparently, in this series, too. So it's getting heated. My first reaction is we need this in the NFL. We need this passion in the NFL. Of course, going back to what we talked about last week.
I don't know what games you've been watching, but there was definitely a lot of fights that were going on in Week 6, which was getting kind of out of hand. But hey, it is what it is.
What I'm saying, though, is we need the chippiness in these kinds of rivalries. We don't have that anymore. Because Kittle got fined for wearing a Fuck Dallas shirt.
Yeah.
Texas threw an intentional, hit by pitch last week in the middle of a game to send the message, which of course led to the fight. So,
Crazy.
Again, that's the things we need in football. And baseball in October is supplying it better than football in rivalry games. So,
yeah.
Come on. But
Fortunately.
as far as my pick for tonight, I'm going to pick the Astros. I don't know who's starting tonight for them, so I'm going to actually look that up real quick. If it's
honestly,
Verlander on the mound,
it'd be interesting to see if the Rangers can make a series and force it a game 7, to be honest with you, but who knows? Especially if you've lost 3 games in a row, there's probably a sense that you're probably not going to win game 6 unless you somehow do win it, and I think it probably goes back to Houston afterwards, so
So it'll be Nathan Eovaldi for the Rangers tonight. Nathan Eovaldi for the Rangers tonight. He's 3-0 in the postseason, 2.29 ERA. Against Framber Valdez, 0 for 2 so far, and he's got a 12 ERA. So actually, I'm going to flip my pick. I think the Rangers are going to force Game 7, to be honest. And then we will see Verlander on the mound on Monday.
Which, that would be interesting. I mean, if the Rangers can really turn it around, they got to do it in Game 6, and then, of course, they would have to win Game 7 if they want to get to the World Series. But fortunately, the Astros, that's easier said than done, so it's going to be interesting to see who's going to end up being in the World Series for, is this the NL?
The AL. The NL is going to be headed to at least 6 games, so... that, of course, is last night's game, Phillies and Diamondbacks, and boy, the Diamondbacks are not going down easy. That's all I'll say.
If you told me that the Arizona Diamondbacks in the present would be even anywhere close, especially being the team that they've been for many years, I would have called you.
Oh, I know.
You're a liar. Phillies is usually always in there, honestly, but Arizona is usually like the laughingstock of the MLB, to my knowledge, and it always has been for a while.
Last year, I know, or the last few years. So this is kind of remarkable, their comeback here. But again, we'll keep an eye on it. We're going to talk about it next week. So next week's show, I do want to stress this. I probably should talk about it at the end, but we're going to be taping a little bit earlier because we're going to the Bills game. So
if there is anything that we do miss, we do apologize in advance. We can always
your boy here's on his first vacation from work in a year or in 15 months. So I told him, I'm like, we're taping Wednesday so I can enjoy my vacation for the 4 days I'm off. So
yeah, don't blame me there.
So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you so that way we have some time for the other stuff in the second half.
Well, of course. How do I even begin to talk about this game for the Buffalo Bills? Oh, yeah, I know how I can. It was ugly. Buffalo didn't show up at all in the first half. No points scored whatsoever. It was 6-0 heading into the half, which crazy to think about. It could have been more.
It could have been 13-0.
It could have been 13-0 heading into the half. But a certain someone called Tyrod Taylor decided to audible to a run and made Coach Brian Daboll super pissed, and I can see why, because he didn't score any points heading into the half at all. Got stuffed at the line. I think Saquon Barkley did, and had no time. They were trying to waste down as much clock, being on top of Saquon. They tried to, get the playoff, and time ran out. Brian Daboll got asked by the sideline reporter about it, and he's like, I'm not in the right state of mind right now. I cannot answer this question. So it definitely was not very good for the Giants. It wasn't good for the Buffalo Bills. But I was like, you know what? I think that somehow they're going to turn around, and they did. They came out of the second half a different team. Were able to get 2 touchdowns on back-to-back drives. It just looked like a different football team. But how much of it was just fatigue from, leftover fatigue from that game against Jacksonville? Buffalo offense really needs to get going, especially against New England. I want to say it's going to be a cakewalk in the park, but it's a division rival. Buffalo's offense hasn't been looking good, but their defense sure has been holding their own. Leads the NFL in sacks at 24. So Buffalo's defense, I'm not worried about. McDermott's been doing a hell of a job leading that defense. Better than Leslie Frazier, and I never thought that would be possible. But Buffalo's offense, Ken Dorsey has been getting a lot of hell from a lot of fans. I've been seeing posts about, fire Dorsey, fire the staff, we need a better offensive coordinator. And actually, Josh Allen was put that to rest and actually supported his offensive coordinator. But the thing is that Dorsey is not like how Dable was, but still doing enough to help Buffalo win these games. So again, it didn't look pretty, but a win's a win at the end of the day, and you're going to get a lot of ugly, games that you gotta come around and win. And this was one of those games that I didn't think was going to be as close as it was. But again, I will say, maybe the refs did miss a clear penalty, but it was explained that when the ball was going in the air like that, you can hold on to the player, nothing is going to get called, apparently by the rules analyst.
It's not maybe they missed it. It's they 100% missed at least a hold, and it should have been a defensive holding at the beginning. So they 100% missed a call, just not the call you're talking about. So my thing is, this is a game, number one, Buffalo needed to win, because you dropped 2 games behind the Dolphins with looking at the rest of the schedules for both teams and seeing Cincy's heating up. Kansas City's been on a run since week 2. This is a game they needed. If they lost this one, they lose the division. And I'm sorry, I was going to come on the show and say that. There was no way they were catching Miami.
I was going to say it.
Now, that said, they should have lost that game, obviously. They played pretty bad. Even the second half wasn't spectacular.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Tyrod audibling, there was definitely a very keen sense of that the Giants were gonna lose that game. And I called it. Tyrod always finds a way to choke these games away, and he fucking did. I was saying it. Tyrod's gonna find a way to lose this game for the Giants. And what happened? One play. That's all it took. He choked the game away for the Giants, all because of a stupid decision, because he's a vet and thought, okay, I see their defense and whatnot. But how much do you want to know that maybe Buffalo was disguising a defense on purpose because they thought, okay, you know what, we got him to change the play at the line of scrimmage, and got stuffed at the line of scrimmage.
But like I said, that play in the second half or in the first half is where he choked. The second half, he had a game-winning drive going. I'm sorry. It was going to be a game winner, I think, had Waller not gotten held. Because, like Darren Waller, outside of Mike Williams, he's one of the best contested catches guys in the entire league. Like,
you got sold? Really? Okay, never mind. Sorry. But I will say that, Darren Waller is a tall guy. Taron Johnson's like, at most 5'10", 5'11", maybe 6 foot. Darren Waller's like, 6'4", 6'5". So, honestly, to see that he didn't even catch that even being held was impressive. He's a tall guy. But in the end of the day, what happened. It was a rough game for both teams. But again, you can't beat Buffalo off of field goals, and that definitely proved to be the case. But yes, I will say that maybe the refs did miss a clear as day penalty. Would it have changed the game? Maybe. maybe not. It depends, because maybe the Giants would have ran the ball, and then Buffalo's front four, or they know how to beef up the line when need be, and that's the Buffalo Bills' strong suit, is their pass rush and their front four.
Yeah.
Their secondary, I don't want to go there.
Again,
it's been very mediocre at best.
Again, I'm going to stress, let's drop the maybe from that, because they missed it. I'm sorry. Like, I can't sit here and, hear maybe on it. But the other thing is that this is more proof that referees, and I get there's a union and stuff, but we need to start holding these referees accountable to a point of you're going to get fired if you repeatedly miss bad calls, or you repeatedly miss calls. No,
and the thing about it too is that I think that the refs should stop dictating how the games are going to be in the last 2 minutes of the game.
But if it's blatant, it needs to be called. And
yeah, of course. If it's blatant, it needs to be called. But again, you got to let the players play. But at the end of the day, because say you do call that penalty at 2 seconds, and there's 0 seconds left on the clock. What are you gonna you want to kind of end the game. You don't want a game to keep on going. Keep on going. It's just fans are already tired. It's midnight. They probably just want to head home. Say you call that penalty. There's 0 seconds left on the clock. Giants could do anything. They could throw the ball. They could run the ball. They could just do anything there. Who's to say that the same thing doesn't happen? And then they're like, you know what? We're not going to just keep on calling penalties all night. Yeah. So.
But again,
I think they made the right move not calling it and ending the game, to be truthfully honest.
I'm sorry, but again, it's the integrity of the game at stake. That's my argument here, is that this is ruining the integrity of the game. I don't give a fuck if it's midnight. I don't give a fuck if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, because we got delayed because of the injury that happened in that game.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we obviously hope he's okay.
He is okay. He's at home, resting up, so he is okay. He's got full mobility in his body, but we do hope that he rests up and will be back off of IR hopefully by the end of the season. Yeah. Ty Johnson got activated from the practice squad to the 53-man roster. Damian Harris is on IR currently, so.
But again, but going back to it, my argument is just the integrity of the game, and I feel like that's something that hurts the integrity of the game. And I feel like ultimately, it feeds into the fans that say, "Oh, this is scripted. We knew who was going to win from the start, and the NFL was going to ensure." It just feeds this. It feeds the conspiracy of the league.
No, it does, and there's a lot of reasons behind it too.
But again, this is why the referees. And there was another call, I think, in the Chiefs game this week too. There was many people felt the same way, where they're like, and again, this is why I say so many times that if they don't make these calls, you don't make it the first time, fine. You don't make it the second time, all right, now we got an issue. Now, if you miss calls more than 5 times, and it seems to be a repeated pattern for a referee crew, then that referee crew should be fired at the conclusion of the season. That's what I think the rule should be.
I agree. I think they should get back and reevaluate the rules of the game.
And I think, and here's the thing, I think once you start threatening them with, we're going to fire you if you keep missing crucial calls, I think you come out and say, at the end of the season, next year, you guys miss calls like you've been missing, you're fired. There's not going to be a write-up process. There's not going to be a decrease in game process. You're straight up fired, and you're not welcome back.
That's why I really do think that Roger Goodell should hold his own and be more involved in that. But unfortunately, he just is collecting a paycheck at the end of the day and just letting it run.
We forgot to talk about that, which we will.
Yeah, he got extended until 2027.
So
yeah. But with that, I'm going to go into my next takeaway because I think we talked about the Bills and the Giants. This one was kind of made a little too much sense, to be truthfully honest with you. McCole Hardman gets traded back to the Kansas City Chiefs. Only had one catch in this tenure with the Jets in 5 games. But the real question is can the speedster take the stress off of Travis Kelce?
Nope.
Probably
Simple
not.
answer.
McCole Hardman's not that good. He never has been. I don't think he ever really will be. I mean, yeah, he can probably catch unlike a lot of the other receivers, but there was a reason why he hardly got used in the offense in general, especially with the Jets when you have guys like Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb. You don't need a McCole Hardman. Just saying. I think they just took him to take him at that point.
This seems to me like Mahomes throwing a fit behind the scenes and saying, I'm sick of this receiving core. I need someone who's familiar with the offense that can help me succeed. That's what it feels like.
I just want to know why the Jets would trade him back there when the Chiefs are heavy favorite to possibly win it all again this year. Why would you trade him there? Why can't you trade him to like a team that might actually need a receiver? I'm not saying that, the Chiefs can't benefit from him, but I just think that you would get him to like a less fortunate team, like I don't know, like a Carolina Panthers team that needs a top receiver right now, other than another receiver to help out Carolina. I mean, I know that they have Adam Thielen, but they
Kansas City that was the only one inquiring about him because again, they probably want familiarity around Patrick Mahomes because they're sick of seeing, it looks like the Kansas City Chiefs of old that only had Travis Kelce when Alex Smith was under center and Dwayne Bowe was useless and the rest of the receivers below him were even more useless. So that's what I think it came down to. Travis Kelce, of course, I'm sorry, this isn't going to take the pressure off of him. You want to know what will is, being done with Taylor Swift. By the way, who gives a fuck about her? Sorry, we're going to keep saying it every time her name's mentioned on the show.
Yeah, exactly. Who gives a flying F about her? But yeah, I think that we can go to the media's worst take of the week.
All right. Let's talk about it. Nick Wright. He had some choice words after Brock Purdy's first loss in the National Football League. Of course, Brock didn't look entirely spectacular, but he did kind of lead that near game-winning drive to the field goal that was missed. So
yeah,
he still got him.
A rookie kicker too.
He still got him in position to win. Let me just say this. Let me just give my recap of the game here before I say what he's saying. He got it to the point that they could have won this game. This is all on the kicker for missing an easy field goal within, I believe, 40 yards was the kick.
I think it was like a 30-something yard field goal or something like that.
But either way, he missed it just barely to the right and lost it. And immediately, Nick Wright, of course, brings up, he's Mr. Irrelevant again. He's a bust without the big stars on the field of McCaffrey and Debo. He's a nothing, he's a nothing burger. Well, let me draw this up for you, Nick Wright, because what happened with your quarterback when Travis Kelce wasn't on the field and there was no McCole Hardman because he's on the Jets at the time? Let's see. He was 21 of 39, just barely hovering over 50% in passing completions, 236 yards. In today's NFL, that's a mid stat right there. That's mid, being 236 yards. 2 touchdowns. Okay, he's still got in the end zone twice. 1 interception. No, wasn't called back because, every time he throws a pick, there's a call. And they lost to the Detroit Lions on the day that they raised the banner that they were Super Bowl champions, and I put that in quotation marks, obviously.
Which is kind of funny. how many times that people lose the games that raise the banners, and it's not exactly the first time that's happened either.
Yeah,
So
but
I mean,
let me add this little tidbit too, because I looked up the stats. There was no touchdowns in the second half against Detroit. So where was Patrick Mahomes in that game? We want to talk about busts as far as being the top guys in the league. If you're the top guy in the league, if you're the MVP of the league, you should be able to demolish the Detroit Lions. I don't care that they're this is the new look Lions and whatnot. You had them on their heels in the first half. You should have been able to run it over. You should have been able to run them over. Plain and simple. So, before you go and say Brock Purdy's a bust, because not for nothing, Patrick Mahomes has benefited so greatly from inheriting a top 5 offense in the NFL when he became the starting quarterback of this team. He benefited greatly from having who ironically is the number 1 receiver in the game right now in Miami in Tyreek Hill. The number 1 overall tight end, a first ballot Hall of Famer in every respect in Travis Kelce. So before you go and say shit like this, how's about you sit down and shut the fuck up? Seriously. Someone at Fox needs to just unplug your mic, because I believe this is now the 3rd time he's been our worst take of the week. So,
yeah, I don't know who decided to hire him, but whoever it was needs to get fired along with him.
Well, when he's eating Patrick Mahomes' fudge, it's not exactly, he's not exactly what you'd call relevant.
Right.
And for those who don't know or are wondering what the hell's he talking about, I'm not going to elaborate. It's 9 a.m. So, let's just say it's the fudge you don't want to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
But with that, before we talk about Belichick, I want to talk about Roger Goodell and his contract extension. He's been extended through the 2027 season. Many insiders believe this will be his last extension, as he is 64 years old. So...
Is he really? He does not look 64 years old.
Oh, I know. Must be all that time he spent in his basement in his recliner that he auctioned off. I don't know. But I think we side with a lot of football fans when we say this. Boo.
Boo.
So, man.
Ooh, another what? His 2023 now.
2027 is when the next contract will end.
Boo. Another few years with Goodell of him doing absolutely nothing to change the NFL. Boo.
Oh, no. You not change it for the good. Of course, the other announcement was that he's looking into a Super Bowl in London in the distant future.
Yeah. Nothing like having to watch a Super Bowl at noon instead of at 6:45.
Here's my thing, and I'm probably going to get in a lot of international trouble as we talk about Roger Goodell's most unbelievable accomplishment. Fuck England, fuck Europe, and fuck all you who think you want our games. So that's first and foremost. And fuck the league for wanting to send it over. So, there's a lot of fucking going on in this episode today. But
I guess there is some positive news after this. 2028 flag football will be officially a Olympic sport.
Yeah,
I don't know if we talked about that before, but
that's a good accomplishment. Now that one's a good accomplishment.
I think that was last week that we talked about it, but I'm going to bring it up this week again. That's huge. It's never been an Olympic sport, by the way. But what has, and it's actually coming back, lacrosse. Lacrosse will be an Olympic sport once again in 2028. So that's huge. more sports for the Summer Olympics in Los Angeles of 2028.
Now, yeah, that'll be cool. So, but going back to this, I did get into it with a European football fan. And I do want to talk about this. He's a good guy. I think we both kind of agree on this. It would appear that Jason, and again, you don't watch racing, I know, but F1 is in the U.S. this weekend at Circuit of the Americas in Texas. For those who don't know, F1 comes to the U.S. 3 times a year. F1 is a European racing league that comes here 3 times a year in order to, for points races to crown a world champion. They'll be back here next month in Las Vegas, under the lights on the streets of Las Vegas. So, and of course, if you want to buy tickets, you can't, because chances are you probably can't afford them, because they're well over a couple grand a ticket for just a nosebleed. It would appear, according to this guy that I talked to, because he lives in London or Europe or whatever, so shout out to him. He told me kind of the facts. He's like, no true NFL fan in London can already afford to go to the London series. It is basically price gouged out to the top 1% there that can afford it. So, just going back to that, and I know we're steering off course, but even more reason that NFL shouldn't be playing in Europe or, Spain or Mexico or any of these countries other than the preseason. And I just
why don't they just send preseason games over there? I mean, they would still be able to get the fans involved. I mean, that's okay. If you want to, send preseason games to Spain, to Germany, to London, fine. Don't do it during the regular season.
And I've been saying that for years, and it's gone nowhere. But obviously it shows how much they care about our views directly.
For instance, look at the NBA. I mean, they got preseason games in other countries, but they don't really do it too much in the regular season. I mean, I know every now and then they will, but they don't really do it a whole lot.
Well, the other difference is there's 41 games in NBA that you're at home, 41 games on the road.
True.
But again, you shouldn't have to lose a game.
Winning one game there is not like it's going to make or break a difference.
Yeah. Now, with NASCAR, here's the thing, with auto racing, it's different. With auto racing, it's different because there's 36 races. How many tracks can you realistically go to with a top premier sport? Because there's a lot of facilities in the United States that just aren't able to hold a professional stock car racing event or a professional open wheel racing event. Okay? How many, and more importantly, how many would actually sell out tickets to that event? There aren't many. So that's why NASCAR and F1 and IndyCar can look in other countries, because other countries have venues that can host these races, that can sell them out, because it's a rare occasion that they go there.
Right.
Okay? Football, there's 29 venues, 29, 30 venues that host games each year. There's only 17 games. Yeah, there are venues overseas, but they're also assigned to a team. NASCAR and IndyCar and F1 and all them, teams don't own the racetracks. Promoters own the racetracks. If football was, okay, we're calling it NFL, if we dropped the city names and said, Packers versus Patriots, and there was no designated home arena or home stadium, then hey, let's send it to Canada one week. Let's send games up into Canada. Let's send games to Mexico. Fine. But they have teams that are at home, and it's costing them their home games Okay, we're not going to Joe Gibbs International Raceway 5 times a year, Hendrick Motorsports Raceway 5 times a year in NASCAR. That'd be different if the teams owned the racetracks. They don't. So, but I'll digress.
So I guess we can get back on.
Yeah, let's get
track
back on
here.
But point being,
yeah.
Roger Goodell's time as commissioner, F-. I think that's a agreement there. Barkley, or I'm sorry, no wait, we're on to
Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick.
Yeah, the Kraft-Belichick thing. So Robert Kraft has hinted that he's potentially going to fire head coach Bill Belichick, who is the longest tenured head coach in the NFL. This was one I think we predicted in preseason.
Yeah, I kind of figured that it was probably coming. I mean, it's kind of been proven that Brady made Belichick, but Belichick didn't make Brady. So, it's crazy to think about, but I think, with all the accomplishments, I don't think him getting fired right now is going to, hurt that much. I think I think his time is just passed, and I think it's time to just retire at this point. I mean, even when they had Brady in 2019, they weren't exactly the greatest team in the world. Yeah, they won the division, but they weren't exactly pretty by any means necessary. So I mean, it kind of was heading down that road anyway. So
you could tell the changing of the guard was starting to happen. You could just tell because the Bills were starting to catch them. The Dolphins were in the midst of their rebuild, but they were, there were signs of hope there. And now it's showing on the football field. So, I don't think it's going to be a firing, but rather kind of a Tom Coughlin situation where they're like, we're not going to fire you, but we're going to ask you to retire.
That could happen.
I think after this amount of time, they're just both mutually gonna be like,
or why can't they just keep him as the GM and fire him as the head coach? Because I think he's GM. I think he's general manager and head coach. So you could just fire him as the head coach and keep him on as the GM and just, because if you fire him during the season, you do know who's your head coach, right? It would probably be Matt Nagy. And we all saw how Matt Nagy did with the Chicago Bears, so it doesn't look very promising.
Matt Nagy's with the Chiefs. You're thinking Bill O'Brien.
No, Bill O'Brien. And we saw, Bill O'Brien wouldn't be terrible. He had some success with the Houston Texans, but I just don't think he's going to have all that great of a success in New England, especially with their situation.
It'd be Bill O'Brien or it would be Matt Patricia. More than likely.
Oh, gosh.
And Matt Patricia, is a train wreck. So, I think it's time. I think now's the time to do it. Mac Jones has been, you're close to deciding the future of Mac Jones, so it's time to
change hands. Hey, New England fans, I have one big question for you if you watch this show. Are you missing Josh McDaniels yet?
What has he done in Oakland to make him want to miss him?
In Las Vegas, but again, yeah, exactly.
Or Vegas, whatever. Whatever penitentiary they're playing in. Okay? How's about that? Does that sound better?
Yeah. But as we get on to the moving forward, Barkley.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley
states he doesn't want to be traded ahead of the deadline in 10 days. I don't know how good of a move that is because he's only on a 1-year contract. So, and Barkley hasn't looked exactly the greatest, so there could be a possibility, Bud, that even if you don't get dealt at the deadline, you're going to get released, and you're probably not going to get brought back. Because I think at this point, the Giants situation's terrible. It's either do they rebuild and try to get rid of Saquon Barkley, or do they keep Saquon Barkley after this year and just say, whatever happens, happens. It just doesn't look like, all that good. I don't want to see Brian Daboll losing his job as a former Bills guy, but after this year, and if you have another year afterwards, I hate to say it, but your job's probably on the line after a couple of years of mediocrity. So
here's what I gotta say. A lot of it is the offensive line in New York. Remember?
Yeah, that's true.
Pug's too busy, or Pugh is too busy sitting on his couch at home.
He's got off his couch at home and played the very first time in like a year or so.
Yeah, he's off his couch. He was on his couch at home and probably sitting there with the rest of the linemen watching Sunday Night Football. It's not.
Yeah, they were all hurt.
It's not Barkley's fault that you've got the whole SNL cast blocking for you while your team's on the couch watching it. So, so how much can you really blame Barkley for this? I mean,
True. Barkley was also playing hurt in the last game too, so
yeah. But with that, I think we've covered all of our bases.
I think it's picks now, isn't it?
Let me pull them up. So here we go. We're on the Raiders and the Bears. Raiders are favored by 2.5.
I don't know if I like it because there's no Jimmy G. It's I think it's O'Connell playing in this game against the Bears. Huh?
I heard Hoyer.
Oh, Brian Hoyer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think 2.5 is reasonable.
I guess I can see the Raiders probably picking off, but it all depends on how Hoyer does. I guess I'm going to go to Raiders, but something tells me that the Bears might.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, you know what? Raiders.
See, I could see a Bears upset, but I'm going to lean toward the Raiders because Hoyer's just got the experience as starting quarterback.
Right.
Browns and Colts. Browns favored by 3.5.
I'm going to say Browns. I think Minshew is just going to have a very struggling day against that Browns defense.
I think the Browns are motivated after the Niners win, so I'm going to go with the Browns too. Bills and Patriots. It's pretty heavily favored in Buffalo. And
yeah. Well, because look what Mac Jones has done. Can he really excel against that Bills defense? That's okay. You see, you got to outweigh Bills defense, Bills offense. Bills defense is really good. The Patriots offense has been terrible. So, but again, I think that I will say this now: the Bills defense is going to help them win this game, and I'm going to go with Buffalo. I don't think it's going to be as close as much of a blowout as they think. I think it's going to be a lot closer, but I think that Bills defense is going to help them win this game, and I wouldn't be shocked if they get after Mac Jones and they pick him off a couple times. I'm going to put it out there. I think Buffalo's secondary is actually going to show up in this game.
I'm going to go Bills. I got no argument against what you just said. So, Commanders, Giants. Commanders favored by 3.
I'm going to say Commanders. I think the Giants are just, Commanders are kind of a sneaky team. And Giants have just fallen apart as of late. So I'm going to go Commanders here. I think Sam Howell's going to have a big day.
You're thinking the same thing I am, because I was about to say they're very sneaky good. Like, they're under the radar good, is what it is. And I'm going to go with the Commanders as well. I think, the offensive coordinator changes. Again, it's slow but steady progress you're seeing from the Commanders. Falcons, Buccaneers, Bucks favored by 2.5.
This game could be good. I think it might be a little bit closer than what people are thinking, but again, I'm going to say Buccaneers here at home. If it was Atlanta, it might be different, but again, I definitely think I'm going to go with Buccaneers at home here.
I'm gonna lean that direction too. Baker with again, I'm gonna state it. Baker with no expectations is solid. So, um, Lions and Ravens. Ravens favored by 3.
I don't know if I like that they're the favorite, but I think this game is going to be really good to watch on Fox. If the Bills weren't at 1 o'clock against the Patriots, this would definitely 100% be the game I would be watching. 100%. But I'm gonna go Lions here on the road.
I'm gonna go
But
Lions.
I wouldn't be shocked if the Ravens somehow get the upset.
Yeah, I'm going Lions too. I like the new look Lions. That's all I can say. Steelers, Rams. Rams favored by 3.
Hey, they got Cooper Kupp back. Who's to say they can't get the win at home? I'm gonna go with the Rams.
Yep, Rams here. Cardinals, Seahawks. Are we just gonna go Seahawks here? Because it's favored by 8. So, Broncos, Packers. Green Bay favored by 1.
My God, I hope that this game is not going to be televised, because if so, that's going to be a bore fest. I'm going to go Packers, though.
It's the Chargers and Chiefs that'll be televised here.
Oh,
so, but I'm going Packers. I do like the spread there. So, Chargers, Chiefs. Kansas City favored by a whopping 5.5.
Oof. Interesting. Sorry, but I have to go with the Chiefs here at home.
The only thing that's going to hurt us is coaching. I'm going to go the Chargers, though. I think it's going to be the upset. I'm sorry. We always come to Kansas City and play. If we don't beat Kansas City here, I expect Staley to be fired. So, Dolphins, Eagles, the game of the week on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a game to watch.
Philly at 2.5, and Philly's wearing the Kelly green this week, so there's excitement as the Kelly Greens return.
This is Kelly Green, Cunningham era Kelly Green jerseys, by the way, too. I'm gonna say Dolphins. I'm gonna go with Dolphins on the road. I'm just putting it out there. Eagles last week showed to me that they are beatable. I'm gonna say Dolphins.
Ah, man, I gotta go Eagles just slightly. It's.
As a Bills fan, I would love to see the Eagles, but as just a person that talks about sports on a weekly basis, I have to go with the team that's been looking hot, and there's a reason why they are number 1 in passing yards per game, and there's a reason why they are number 1 in points scored. So I'm gonna have to go.
But the Eagles aren't a team to sleep on. That's why I pick them. I just think they're not a team you can take lightly in the NFC. Everyone gives them crap. Oh, they always benefit from an easy schedule. Well, they made the Super Bowl last year against one of the best offenses in the history of the game. So keep talking. That's all I can say. Eagles always underdogs. So
yeah,
I'm going with the Eagles. 49ers and Vikings. We don't know, actually. I was about to say, are we going to say 49ers, but we don't know about McCaffrey or Debo.
I was going to say, I'm pretty 100. Well, okay, how about this? If there's a game that we want to talk about, this is probably a game. You got no Justin Jefferson for Minnesota, and last week they kind of looked like they struggled without him. But 49ers also probably not going to have Christian McCaffrey or Debo Samuel. So I don't know. I want to say Minnesota, but I don't know, Jim.
Yeah.
This one's a tough one. I'm going to go with the San Fran on the road, to be honest, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than 7.
I don't think it'll matter if Debo or McCaffrey play. I think it's going to be the 49ers. I think.
I was going to say, I feel like they're going to somehow trickle in Ayuk somehow, some way. Yeah. I think he might be running from the backfield, somehow catching passes. This man is going to, be used very well in that offense this week. So I think Kayuk is going to be what's going to help that team possibly win.
Yeah.
And we're getting into the game
the game
we will be
going
seeing
to,
live.
boys. You'll see us again. We're gonna try to get some content out there from the Bills game. Maybe we'll do some Facebook and Instagram lives to offset being there. And Bills and Bucks. Bills favored by 8.5.
Yeah, that's crazy. I want to say Buffalo can possibly win here, but Buccaneers, I don't know. I think like this is going to be a tough game.
I don't know.
I'm going to go Buffalo, but I don't see it being as far out as it's going to be honest with you. Unless they think that the Bucs are going to somehow be like they were against the Lions in this game. I don't see that.
I think, we just need to stop sleeping on the Bucks altogether, to be honest. I think the Bucks are... I don't think they're a legitimate team, but I think they're a team that's going to win their division at this point. I'm willing to put that bold statement out there. The Bucks will win their division this year because the Saints have nosedived since Kamara came back. So I'm gonna go with the Bills still. I almost said Bucks. I wasn't going to say Bucks. But
Damn.
I'm gonna go with the Bills. I think it's going to be a high score. I'm sorry. I think it's going to be I think we're going to see over 50 points combined. So
you think this is going to be an offensive showcase?
I can see it because they have Mike Evans. I believe they've got a rookie receiver there that's really getting involved. I believe they still got Cameron Brate too. What?
I mean, they have also they have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans.
So they got so many offensive pieces. Baker, again, with no expectations. I like Baker with no expectations because I think he plays like... I think if we're going to compare him to anyone, he's playing like Geno Smith right now in that he's playing well enough to keep his job. Is he good enough to be a franchise quarterback? He's still always going to be on the cusp of that. But
I was going to say, there's some undefeated records here. Buffalo is currently undefeated at Buffalo, and apparently Tampa Bay is undefeated on the road. So it's going to be a good game regardless.
And again, it will be. But going back to it, it seems like they're having a Seattle-esque season where they're a team that really wasn't expected to do well, was expected to tank, and look at where they are. So
True.
I think Baker's going to get a nice little extension at the end of the year.
Yeah, probably a couple-year extension.
Yeah, so with that, let's go to Tinkle on this, and let's talk about the Broncos, since we love hating on them so much on this show. The Broncos, of course, you remember a few weeks ago, I don't know if you do or not, they got spanked in Miami, 70-20.
Yeah, they did.
So one Broncos fan, we saw this on Instagram, a Broncos fan did a Halloween decoration in front of his house of skeletons watching the game on television, and they were just looking in horror like this, and unbelievable. Oh my goodness. And yeah, so Denver Broncos, you're never going, this is right up there with 28-3. This is right up there with 3-1 Warriors. Tinkle on this.
Yeah, it's crazy because, but honestly, that takes a lot of skill to even do all of that. I think that they probably should win the block just for Halloween in a sense. That's pretty cool, but yeah. Tinkle on this, the Broncos for giving up that many points, especially to their former ball boy and Mike McDaniel.
Oh, man.
it just proves that maybe you should have gave him a chance at the coaching job after all, because yeah.
Hey, he could have been a story. He could have had a storied career there, like Eric Spoelstra does in Miami. Of course, Eric Spoelstra for the Heat was the video maker, the videographer for him before being the head coach. So,
Yeah,
he could have had a storied career there, much like Eric Spoelstra with the Heat. But hey,
but they never
they
gave him
kept
an
playing.
opportunity to even go after the job, which I think is insane.
Yeah. But with that, what's coming up on No Final Bell this week?
Yes. We are talking about a lot of um, storylines heating up, heading into full gear for November 18th, which I know is just under a month away, but there was a lot of storytelling in this thing. It's going to be definitely an AEW heavy show, so definitely be ready to be talking a lot of AEW, but we also will be talking about Impact's Bound for Glory as well, which is kind of crazy that a year ago Marty and I went to the Bound for Glory in Albany. So yeah, we'll be talking about that. What's coming out of or up for out of turn 4? I know there's not really much left.
We're close to the end, folks. We only got, what is it? After tonight, we will only have 2 more NASCAR races left on the schedule, and then we're done for the year. So, we're going to be talking Homestead. Of course, Kyle Larson has already locked his way into the championship race at Phoenix. There's 2 more spots available by win, and 3 more, if no new winners, by points. So we'll see if they can make the championship 4. And Homestead's a great track. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about some silly season moves again. Still some parts and pieces moving around. And we'll, of course, get you ready for Phoenix and for Martinsville, which, by the way, Jason, I don't know if you've ever seen highlights from the last few years at Martinsville, but it is a show over there. I mean, there is always someone angry at the end of that race. Always someone throwing a tantrum at the end of that race. I believe a few years ago, Alex Bowman, Denny Hamlin. Hamlin got dumped by Bowman. Bowman won the race, and Denny Hamlin prevented him from burning out by pulling his nose right in front of his car.
Oh, really?
Then last year, Ty Gibbs dumping his teammate, who needed to win to make the championship 4, to win the race. That was dramatic. And then, of course, who can ever forget Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin fighting on the pit lane. So, needless to say, Martinsville coming up. We're going to have fun talking that one. So, with that, though, we want to thank you for watching again. We'll try to have some content out this week from the Bills game. So stay tuned for that. If we can find the pregame show and it's outside the stadium, I don't know if they still do that or not, but we'll try to get there as well for that, for the live taping. And we hope to see you here next week for another edition, an early recorded edition of Sunday Morning Tinkle. But until then, goodbye, everyone.